snarky. They're always rolling their eyes. They're always, sarcastic. But when it comes to some of the stuff on the left, they are just supple prey. I mean, they just fall for it, like Muggeridge said, like school children reciting multiplication tables. All this skepticism and pessimism is suddenly gone when you've got a Soviet central planner in front of you that says, and now here at this building, we are producing, and comes up with some incredible statistic. Instead of their usual cynicism and skepticism goes, that's amazing. Wait till they hear about this in the West. Those right-wingers, those McCarthyites. So it's really, we're looking at, I think with so many things that we're dealing with people from that persuasion, it requires almost a psychological explanation. A lot of it's emotional and psychological, even more than it's, like Muggeridge said, they went there wanting to believe, and damn it, nothing was gonna move them away from that belief. Go ahead.
The second question would be, what difference do you see between the classic problem in Izvestia of the Soviet times and the mainstream media in this country today?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
in terms of,
I'll say this.
Covering for the regime the big lines.
Right. I'll say this. In a way, I'll be very careful about how I say this because I don't want it to be misused. In a way, what we have is worse because the media then in the Soviet Union was controlled. And anybody who wanted to say something different couldn't because of threat by the state. So in other words, those quote-unquote journalists had an excuse. And besides, most of them weren't journalists, they were working for the KGB. You weren't actually a free journalist doing free journalism. But here we have something that in a way is kind of worse, which is they're not controlled by the state at all, but they're so biased toward a particular ideology or particular party or particular president that they end up doing the bidding for that person. They don't even realize it. They don't even see that bias. I would tell liberals all the time they would hate this. They hate it when I say it, but Rush Limbaugh is more honest than the New York Times, because Rush Limbaugh tells you exactly what he believes. He comes out and he says, "I'm a conservative. You're going to get from me 3 hours of right-wing stuff. Here is my bias. I am a total conservative. I don't like Obama. I hope he fails. I vote for Republicans." And then you get the New York Times like, "Well, I'm an objective journalist and we don't take sides here either way." And that's just complete dishonesty. And I can't read just blatant dishonesty. I can't respect that. The Times in other words, the Times has an agenda too. It's a left-wing agenda, but they don't admit it, and that's very dishonest. John.
Your research into the Mattachine Society, which
Yes.
I recall was kicked out of the Communist Party. Evelyn Hooker, whose psychological study was responsible for homosexuality being classified as a mental illness in 1973, provided the test subjects for her. And I was just wondering if you did any research into that.
Not on her, but in Takedown. Harry Hay. Harry Hay was one of the founders of the gay movement. In fact, his biographer, Timmons, calls him one of the core founders, if not the founder of the gay left. And he was a communist. He was a hardcore Communist Party member and organizer. His entire life, he had been gay. He got married for about 13 years, like 1938, 51, something like that, where he tried to hold together a heterosexual marriage, but couldn't really do it. He was attracted to men. He simply wasn't attracted to women. He was attracted to men. But anyway, so he started before he was a communist. He was gay. The communist ideology came later. And by the way, the person who brought him into the Communist Party, that brought Harry Hay into the Communist Party, was Will Geer, the actor who played Grandpa Walton on The Waltons. Yeah, Will Geer was a big leftist, pro-communist, bisexual, not homosexual. He was married and had kids as well. But that's something they weren't telling on The Waltons in the 1970s. But Will Geer brought Harry Hay into radical politics, and so Harry Hay was. And I said the Communist Party kicked Harry Hay out. Here's how it really worked. Some people in the Communist Party were bothered by homosexuality. Some weren't. Whittaker Chambers was bisexual prior to getting married, and then he changed. But the Communist Party, the problem the Communist Party had with gays was the same problem that the federal government and the military had with them, was that they were subject to blackmail. And the Communist Party USA, was being watched, unlike any organization, by the FBI. And so if you had a gay communist, he could easily be blackmailed by whoever. And the Soviets, of course, were masters at blackmail. So they were good at doing this as well. So really what's going on is CPUSA would look Communist Party USA would look the other way if there was a particularly useful and really good gay communist who wasn't really out of the closet and they could get away with it. Harry Hay's sexuality became too clear, and so really what happened was he wasn't kicked out of the Communist Party, but he left voluntarily because he saw what problems he could create. So he formed the Mattachine Society, which was the first gay communist group. Yes?
Well, excuse me, this is just on what you were saying there. The U.S. intelligence community and internal security community was more concerned about homosexuals within the classified arena.
Right.
Because, to a very large extent, not so much because of blackmail, but because the KGB looked upon them as psychologically vulnerable.
Yes.
At war with themselves,
right, they really
at war with the society, and therefore much more manipulable than others.
Yes.
And so it was less a blackmail issue than being able to exploit the conflicting emotions within.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I think it's in one of Oleg Kalugin's books. He has a couple pages on this, and how they. The Soviets would really abuse these men when they could, and you could. They would use homosexuals in another way to try to blackmail other individuals, who they thought could be blackmailed, and if they didn't agree, they would literally send them off to prison. Yes.
Out of curiosity, my name's Jackson, by the way. Were there any examples of the Soviets trying to dupe people more on the right wing, and even successes of that?
Not unless, there were some people who were more moderate Republicans, like Mark Hatfield, who they saw as more friendly, that they could use and manipulate. But really, the thinking was, if you were on the left, you were just much more likely to find common ground, to be a fellow traveler. So it was much more easy to get you to a peace march, because those people tended to be left-wingers rather than right-wingers. But I do have a few examples in the book of some right-wingers who were duped in different instances. And also, to be fair, there were some really good anti-communist liberals who tried to warn other liberals, and these are really my heroes in the book, about being duped. Arthur Schlesinger was one of them. Great piece for Life magazine he wrote in 1946, warning liberals about being duped. And a lot of them just simply laughed at him. Yes?
Last week was a rather demoralizing week for conservatives, among whom I call myself one. Are there any further demoralizations in front of us before the sine wave turns again?
No,
we have 200 years of a trend,
right,
that cannot go on forever.
Yes.
So when do you foresee it moving in another direction?
I think it's only going to get far, because what's going to happen now, especially with gay marriage being a constitutional right, is that the left, especially the atheistic and secular left, is going to use that as a club to really hammer and attack religious believers. And so for religious believers, it's going to get very difficult. I mean, if you're a baker or florist or photographer and you don't want to photograph or provide a cake or whatever for a same-sex ceremony, they are not going to let you disagree. They're not. You're either going to have to lie and say, I'm busy, I can't do that wedding that date, or you're going to be fined or you're going to be shut down. I think the only thing that the left is going to allow for a little while is for certain churches and certain religious groups to be religious on strictly religious grounds to oppose same-sex marriage. But that's not going to last for a while either, especially as you have more liberal denominations that are embracing gay marriage. And I'm already getting emails from different people who say things like, hey, Kengor, you're Roman Catholic, and you're citing your Pope and the magisterium of the church for your position for opposing same-sex marriage. But look at this poll, 55% of Catholics support gay marriage, So the real answer, Kengor, is that you're a homophobe and that you hate gay people. And I'll say, well, I don't. I just don't support redefining marriage. That's all. I mean, give me any anti-discrimination law you want. I just don't support redefining. But they're going to, and see, this is what really attracts the communists to this, because not only, if you go to the People's World website right now, the lead piece in the rotating window is a piece celebrating the Supreme Court ruling on Friday. They've been celebrating Gay Pride Month at People's World every day with a new gay pride piece. I'm not exaggerating at all when I tell you, you will find far more rainbow flags than you will red flags at the website of People's World, especially because they want to call themselves progressives. So they don't put up a red flag, but they've been having the rainbow symbol up there all month. They've been celebrating Stonewall, all kinds of different things. So you should have seen People's World and CPUSA and the communists over the Indiana thing, over the Indiana Religious Freedom Restoration Act. This was beautiful for them. This was so good for them because they've always hated religion more than anything else, right? Marx called religion the opiate of the masses, said communism begins where atheism begins. Vladimir Lenin said there's nothing more abominable than religion. Lenin said, all worship of a divinity is a necrophilia. A necrophilia. Religion, he said, is like venereal disease. That's what he said. The communists have always hated religion even more than private property, even more than the nuclear family. So with same-sex marriage giving them a chance to finally not only redefining the traditional Judeo-Christian family, but to attack religion, I mean, this is a godsend to them. I mean, if they weren't atheists, they'd be shouting hallelujah. I mean, this is magnificent. And again, they are astounded to see that so many mainstream Americans would hand them this beautiful, you talk about a hammer and sickle. I mean, Catholic Charities in the state of Massachusetts is no longer doing adoptions. That is the oldest adoption agency in the United States. Even if people who don't like the Catholic Church say, boy, the Catholic Church has done such a great job with hospitals and schools and adopting of children, they had to shut down in the state of Massachusetts and in Illinois because they won't adopt children into gay couples. Because they said, sorry, but our church's teaching is that families and marriages are between one man and one woman, so we don't do that. So what they do in Massachusetts and in Illinois, they shut them down. They're no longer doing adoptions. Now you would think that some people on the left would say, well, that's too bad because the Catholic Church actually did some good work there. It's too bad, but they, no, instead they're like, yeah, good. Those fascists, those Nazis, take them down, right? So for them, this is great. And now when you can walk around and say that gay marriage is a constitutional right, which it now is, it's going to be really, really, really hard for a group like Catholic Charities to do that. Like Scalia and Alito warned the solicitor in the gay marriage case before the Supreme Court. They said, yeah, but when marriage was being decided among the states, all the different states have their own constitution and different laws. You could have different rules in different states. They said, but if this becomes a national constitutional right, then these religious groups and places are going to be in violation of a constitutional right to marriage, aren't they? And she's like, well,